Hi, I'm Ryan Cunningham with Aspen House Painting. This week I was thinking about what could I share that would be useful for people, and my wife gave me inspiration for this without really even knowing it. I was recently gone to my cousin's wedding, and while I was gone, my wife decided to replace the flooring in our kitchen and repaint the kitchen as a surprise to me, which was awesome. Everything turned out great. The floor looked amazing. She did a great job. When I got back, I grabbed my Purdy brush, my Pro Glide Purdy brush, and this is after I've already spent about 10 minutes cleaning it. And while I was cleaning it, I thought, wait a minute, people actually don't know how to properly clean a paintbrush. This is something that needs to be shared. And it may sound silly, but it makes perfect sense. If you look at this brush, there's paint all dried in it. It's very stiff. It needs some serious help to get back to a healthy form. And this is after I've already spent some time with it. And my wife was absolutely surprised. She said, I cleaned the brush good. I did everything right. And I said, man, I'm sorry, but you didn't. And I've actually seen lots of my friends and stuff, they've gone out in their garage, grabbed their paintbrush, and it's hard as a rock, and they don't get it. They've said, I cleaned that thing great. So I'm going to show you today how to properly clean a paintbrush so that the next time you pull it out, it's still in great shape. I'm going to show you one of mine here. This is an old Purdy of mine. This has got to be 5 years old possibly, and if you look at it, the bristles are still clean. It's still got great, perfect shape, and that's just from taking good care of a brush. So I'm going to show you how to take good care of your paintbrush, keep it clean, and get a long life out of it. Because if you invest in a good paintbrush like a Purdy or a Wooster, you're going to spend anywhere from $10 to $25 on a great brush. And if you take good care of it, there's no reason that brush can't last you, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years more if you don't use it very often even. And like I said, this is almost a weekly use brush, and it still looks great. So let's check it out. So anytime before you start painting, the first thing you should do is get your paintbrush wet. What this does is it just gives a wet surface, and it makes it harder for the paint to stick to your paintbrush. It's going to save you a lot of time cleaning it out later. And what I like to do, put the brush between your hands, give it a quick spin. It's going to fling all the water out with some centripetal force, and get it nice and dry, ready to go, but still be damp. Next, when you are painting, I got a bucket of paint here. The hardest place to clean on your paintbrush is that top last inch. You can't get in there good. It's very hard to get in there and clean that out. But yet, if you've got paint that stays in there, that's going to turn the top inch of your brush just hard as a rock, and it's going to affect your whole brush and how easy it is to work with. So one thing to remember is to try to keep your paint clear of that top last inch. Just use the top 1.5 inches of your paintbrush, and you're going to be much happier if you keep that controlled. If you do happen to get paint starting to work its way up into this top last inch, stop every hour or two and clean out your brush ahead of time. So, when I'm painting, I am going to try to keep my paint about here when I'm dipping, and it's going to naturally work up about another 1/4 inch or so. But I'm going to try to keep that last little bit completely clean, and that's going to help it out. So, I'm not going to show you how to clean a barely dipped brush. I'm going to work this paint in here and really get it around in the brush exactly how many of you probably end up with a brush. Alright, so we've got our filthy brush. We're going to start just by cleaning off everything on the outside that we can. Now, when I'm cleaning out a brush, and you'll notice it's coming out very easily already, and that's because I wet the brush out beforehand and I didn't let everything dry. If you let the brush completely dry, it's going to be significantly harder. But what you want to start doing then is pushing the brush sides. When you wet it down, bend the brush over. What that does is it forces water up into the top last inch of your brush. It forces water up in here and cleans that top part out. If you just sit in here and do it till you think it's clean, that's getting a little hot. This isn't going to give you a clean brush. It's going to give you a clean bottom 2 inches, or 1.5 inches, but this top part's still going to have paint in it. And that paint, it's going to seep down a little bit inside the brush, and it's going to leave the whole brush crusty. So you can see it looks clean, but if we push that brush sideways, you see a kind of little bit of hint of green paint coming out. that means there's still paint in the brush and it's still getting the brush dirty. This is going to be a solid brush when you let it dry out for a few days. So I'm going to turn that brush upside down. I'm going to force, hopefully you can see that on the video, but a little bit of paint coming through the bottom there. I'm going to keep doing this until my brush ends up completely clean and clear water is coming out. Now I'm going to use that centripetal force again, and I'm going to spin it in my hand, and that's going to take all that water and just force it out of the brush. So you see that kind of gets the bristles to open wide, and it's really going to throw any water out of there. I'm going to do that a couple times here to wrap up. Check it, see if it's clear. It looks very clear. I'm going to use that centripetal force one more time. And there. I'm going to reshape that brush a little bit, put a nice shape on it. So that next time so it'll dry out in this shape, and next time I go to get it, I'm going to have a nice clean brush. If you still have the packaging, it's a great way to keep the shape of your brush. So another one of my brushes I use quite often, and you see how clean it still is and how nice and soft it still is. So go ahead and keep it in the packaging. Sometimes your packaging gets ripped and ruined, you can't do it, but if you got it, put it back in the packaging, keep the brush in great shape. And that is all. A very simple video on cleaning a brush. You're probably thinking, wow, this guy really, videos on cleaning brushes, but yes. Yes, videos on cleaning brushes. And clean your brush properly and make it last forever.